we go. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I'm so excited to introduce you to and share with you my good friend, Dr. Abby, who I actually met for the first time on her podcast. So, full circle moment. We've been friends ever since, and we just vibe. So, Dr. Abby, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It was so funny because remember when you reached out to me, you literally just sent me a link and it was like, schedule a podcast recording,
Yeah.
zero context. And I'm just like, cool. Okay. We're talking. You have a podcast
Yep.
now.
Yeah. That's how I roll.
I love it.
Here's the link. Book yourself. I'll see you then.
I'm like, okay.
Like, what is your podcast about?
Yeah.
And because of that question, I actually changed my description to actually let people know what they were getting into, because in our and her industry, we're very used to talking about our approaches and our points of view for health and wellness and movement and all the things, pain and trauma and all the things. But as we all know, this is going to be a little bit of a different conversation, still in that world, right? But you're the perfect person to share your story, parts of it that you're willing to, just like I am.
Yeah.
So basically, I was getting really, I guess the word is frustrated with my 30-second bio and then just going into education, and just thought to myself, there's just so much more to me and there's so much more to other people being interviewed than what they do for a living. And no one knows what everyone has been through. We don't need to go into all the details, but the Brene Brown quote is something like, everyone's story would bring you to your knees.
Yeah.
But no one, that's what it is. Everyone has a story that would bring you to your knees, but no one talks about those. And because I'm a logistical brain person, I love logistics, how, I'm like, how do people get through stuff? Because when I had to get through dark times, I didn't have any mentor or a book or a journal or a podcast to turn to go, oh, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
That would have been really helpful if when I was thinking about killing myself to do that instead, right? That would have been nice to know. So I want to give people a platform to share the logistical things you actually did to get through what you've been through. So, we will do the 30-second bio situation just to give people a world of who you are. And then we'll kind of go into the actual meat and potatoes of it all.
Yeah. Cool.
So, who are you?
Bio. Yeah, so funny that you and I met on my podcast. Oh my goodness. You were probably in our first 20 episodes, I want to say. Probably 2019. I don't even know. So that's so fun. And then I did your mentorship. At the start of COVID.
Yes, the break-free mentorship.
Yes, which is so fun. And I was so grateful for that you decided to do that, because it was right when I feel a lot of, this is a tangent, but a lot of movement-based professionals, once COVID hit, were like, oh my goodness, I need to diversify. I need to get online. I need to have other offerings. I have no idea how to show up in this space. I feel then social media was barely starting to become kind of a business platform for people. It's changed so much, and you know that too. And so it's just so wild to think back to then.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
At that time, I believed I had mastered Instagram. I was like, I got the person. Had a baby. I took 4 months off. Yeah. And when I came back, so this is 2020, I had a baby in July. I came back and I was like, what's a reel?
Yeah.
Why
best.
What is this? I literally went into my maternity
Yeah.
leave with they reels didn't exist. And then I came out of it and there were reels.
Wow.
So I was like, cool, I'm not a master anymore and I can't teach this to anyone cuz I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, here
You
we
know,
are.
yeah.
Now I'm back full circle and feel very
Yeah.
confident in coaching people with that, but
Now I like would say you've nailed it, but okay.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So okay. So anyway, my 30-second spiel. My name is Dr. Abby Kramer. I'm a chiropractor by trade, and I see patients in the Chicagoland area 3 days a week. I work very holistically, though. I do a lot with like functional medicine and nutrition, and help people process through things emotionally because just the whole body's connected, right? You and I know this. You can't just look at someone's back pain as only physical. There's biochemical imbalances as well going on. There's emotional and stress based imbalances, and you've got to really look at the whole picture. You don't have to do it all, but we need to like recognize that it is all involved in the whole of the person in front of you. Um, and so obviously I'm super passionate about that. And then I do a lot online. I have a podcast like we talked about with one of my colleagues, Dr. Nicole. I have a Substack. I do a lot on social media, and I also help in product development with a company called Fringe. That we make wellness products. I know you've spoke about our red light products. We also have an exciting new supplement line. So lots of hats, lots going on.
So many cool things. I use the red light all the time. It is so
So
yummy and so delicious for so many reasons.
yeah.
So thank you for that. So we've got this career, right? You've built this career. You stand confident and strong in your beliefs and your approaches and give to your patients and educate and right, it's like this, I don't know what to call it, right? Like you've got this thing going on and it's pretty solid and you feel good about it and it's what you do. And then there are many aspects of yourself that don't fall into those categories. Well, they always fall into health and wellness, but that we don't share about. And I really want to give these listeners insights into who you are actually, right? So why did you even become a chiropractor? Is chiropractic where it started or was it before that?
I would say there were like little steps before that, even. That definitely was the big dive. But like growing up, I was a competitive swimmer. And so I was always very fascinated with the human body and especially like kinesiology and like biomechanics. Um, and so like I always loved anatomy classes and physiology and stuff like that. I just gravitated towards that. And I majored in human movement sciences and was a personal trainer for a couple years before I went to chiropractic school. But what introduced me to chiropractic, I was a patient of chiropractic, started in undergrad. This is one of those now I believe like a God moment. I was actually in a pretty bad car accident in undergrad, got T-boned, my car spun, horrible whiplash. One of those like I thought I was fine, woke up the next morning, I thought my neck was broken, couldn't move it at all. Went to the student health center. They, of course, gave me a bunch of pain meds and muscle relaxants, which, I forgot 2 days of my life and then the pain came right back. And for some reason, the thought literally popped into my head to reach out to one of my anatomy professors of like if they knew someone else I could go to, like something that could help me. And he was like, actually, one of my really good friends is a local chiropractor. Go see him. I think it could really help you. I didn't know what chiropractic was. I'd like maybe heard of it, but honestly had no idea. I was like, what do I have to lose? And I end up in this office. This is a very traditional chiropractor, by the way, like nothing like how I practice. Like, high velocity adjustments, some ultrasound, some stim, send you on your way. Like very, very traditional, which is great. We need those guys. And I walked out of that office like with 80% of my pain gone. And I was like, whoa, like what, literally what just happened? Like drugs haven't touched this. I mean, it was like so bad. I was basically like immobile. And so I kept going regularly. And I remember this Cairo, I should like actually find him and probably write him a thank you letter. He would always tell me, he's like, you need to be a chiropractor. Like, you're studying all the classes. You like, what are you doing? And I was like, no way. I'm done with school. I'm going to be a trainer. You know, I was like, I'm never going back to school again. Like, I can't wait to be done. Lo and behold, like, you know, I mean, you have probably experienced this too as a trainer. I started working in a very uppity, very nice gym, but I realized very quickly that I was like, this is not the move. I was not happy being in like a big box gym where it's all about sales and how many people you're training, and it's not about how they're actually getting better and how, like, it was just a system, right? It was like a machine. And I was like, I cannot do this every day for the rest of my career. Like, there's absolutely no way. And I also just wanted to know more. I realized there were a lot of holes in like my training. Like a client, you know, as a trainer, your people ask you about everything, right? Like all of a sudden you were like the health expert. So it's like, why does my knee hurt right here when I did this? And with my like this bit of education, I didn't really have an answer for them, right? I was like, we can strengthen this or work on mobility, but I didn't really know enough about the human body, even just on a physical level, let alone everything else, to help people the way I wanted to. So I quickly realized in the personal training that the answer was more education. And so I kind of weighed all the options, and then I was like, God bless it, that Cairo's right. Like, obviously, I'm going to chiropractic school. And so it was a very fast process, like, filled out the applications. I had almost all the courses I needed anyway because of my major. And there just happened to be a chiropractic school like 20 minutes from where I lived. So very quickly, I was off to the races. But I always thought I was going to be like a sports rehab chiropractor and like work with athletes and like very, very into the physical dynamic of things. And I still love that stuff, but it was more through my own experience with healing, which was what really got me into the more fringy or alternative or integrative kind of field of chiropractic, if you want to put it that way.
So what specifically opens up that, like NET, neuroemotional technique, like what, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
where in your chiropractic
Yeah.
journey did you go like, taking a little turn?
Yeah. It was the biggest part of it. A small part of it was I suffered with chronic, horrific, debilitating migraines for years in my 20s. I would have like a migraine 4 days a week. I tried every drug imaginable. None of them worked, or the side effects were worse than getting a headache itself. And I was very, very concerned. This like hit a tipping point right before I started like the full-time chiropractic program. And chiropractic school is very demanding. It's medical school. It's 4 years of like 30 credit hours every semester. And it's nuts. So it's like, I was like, how am I going to get through this program if every other day I'm laid out with a migraine? And I was taking a biochemistry class at that point in time. And I asked one of my professors, because I knew he like worked, he saw patients and worked with like some supplements in his office. And I was like, have you ever seen anything help migraines like that I could try taking? And he was like, yeah, try this herb called feverfew. It's a 50-50. For half of the people it works really well, half the people it won't, but it won't hurt you, so you have nothing to lose. And I was like, okay. And he was like, and then I'd also recommend going gluten free. And I was like, all right, I'll try anything. So I went gluten free, started taking feverfew, never got a migraine again. Gone. Yeah,
What is that?
within like a week or two. Feverfew
What's
work, it like helps with vasodilation. So one of the theories with migraines, we don't
oh,
really understand what causes migraines. And I think because it's a multifactorial diagnosis, it's not one thing for everyone.
yeah.
But it helps like open up blood flow. And so some people's theories is that that's what's going on with migraines is it's like a
Is
circulation.
it an herb or what?
Yes.
It's an herb.
Nerve. And it's common. I mean, you can get that at Whole Foods. So take that, try it out if you get migraines. Um, but it worked really well for me. And I think also diet changes had something to do with it as well. But so that was before I started the chiropractic program. I was on my feverfew. I was like, yeah, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward a couple semesters into chiropractic, I, for some reason, decided it'd be a great idea to become a half marathon runner with everything that was on my plate. So I was like
Mm.
running like crazy, all these miles. And I got a really, really bad IT band injury. Um, I was doing all the quote right things on paper, right? I was like rehabbing it. I was doing chiro. I was doing the kinesio tape. All the things, and nothing was helping. Like not even 1%. And I was like, man, I was so frustrated. And I had a race coming up in a couple months, and one of my girlfriends was like, hey, I know you're like injured and you're trying all these things. Just come to Applied Kinesiology Club on campus. Like a bunch of interns, I guess, had just gotten certified, and she's like, just have someone take a different look. And applied kinesiology is how chiropractic works. Is in most schools, there's a bunch of different clubs where you can kind of learn subspecialties. So there's like a club for pediatric chiropractic. There's a club for like functional medicine. There's a club for like rehab and sports chiro, right? And so, kind of different days of the week, different clubs meet, and you like dive deeper and learn because chiropractic, unlike med school, you don't have like a residency where like you graduate and you go get super super niche for like a year or two. You kind of learn those on your own via seminars and certifications and stuff like that. Anyway, I always thought applied kinesiology was super weird. I was just like, I'm gonna be a sports chiro, those guys are weird, blah blah blah. And but again, I was in this position where I had nothing to lose, right? And so I, like kind of kicking and screaming, I was like, okay, I'll come check this out, like whatever, nothing else is helping. My IT stuff showed up in my knee. um I get there. This intern's like, cool, does a bunch of manual muscle testing to assess like the neurologic function of like my hip stabilizers and ankles and stuff like that. And finds a couple muscles that aren't firing optimally, does some quick like soft tissue techniques to help correct that. And was like, okay, stand up and look around. And I was like, you didn't do anything. I'm like, what? For real? And he's like, yeah, go walk around. Same thing. Get up, walk around, just like with that Cairo I saw, and like 80% of my pain was gone. I could go up and down the stairs like fine. And I was like, what did you just do? Like that was some voodoo shit, you know? And then he's like, yeah, but like definitely come see me in the student clinic. Like he was in his like clinical internship because he was like, based off of what I found, I'm guessing you also have a lot of hormonal imbalances. And like my jaw hit the ground. I was like, I haven't had a period in 9 months. Like, how did you know that? And he's like, yeah, because the whole body is connected and based on like the acupuncture meridians and like the areas where you're having problems. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, this dude just like worked on me for like literally 5 minutes or
A
less.
dude.
Found more than like any one has, right? So long story short, I started down that whole path. Like I got in a certification course for applied kinesiology, and I mean that for me what was really like holy cow. And then my cycles came back. I got on the right supplements and like diet and like fed my body what it needed. I was severely deficient in like healthy fats because I was just like running and eating salad, go figure. And so just like my body came back online and I felt better than I ever had, even despite all the stress of being in med school and all that. And then what actually got rid of my chronic migraines, to circle back to this, I was still taking the feverfew, headache free, like great. And I find myself in a seminar for neuroemotional technique, which that is what works on emotions and stress and how they impact us. Because what I found was if I ran out of my feverfew or even forgot to take it for a couple days, my headaches would come back. Right. So while that was better than taking pharmaceuticals or whatever, it wasn't fixing the problem. It wasn't getting to the root cause, right, of why I was experiencing headaches. And it wasn't until I went down that rabbit hole and learned neuroemotional technique and started receiving it myself, which what NET does is it helps remove the physiologic triggers from like our nervous system that are impacting us, right? And so I had stress from college, from teenage years, from Chiro school, from the world, from growing up, right? You name it, that my body was holding on to that was coming out in headaches. And so after, man, I want to say probably like 2, 3 months of experiencing and learning NET and like receiving sessions, I was like, all right, I want to try and like wean off the feverfew. And I haven't taken it since then. So it's, and I'm sure you find this too. So many people that are in our field, um, you're in there because of your own personal experience. Whether it's through your own healing journey or a family member, like you had to dive deeper or you went through some trauma or crisis, like this is why we seek to go further. This is why we want to pay it forward and like help other people learn this information. And I mean, you're like that too, like helping people heal in a different way when other things haven't helped them and helping other practitioners help their clients in a new way. So that's kind of the whole what we
Yeah, that's your actual stories,
do.
right? Like that's what's
You
past that
can't
30-second bio.
in a 6 second reel.
You can't.
You just can't.
If it's past 8 seconds, you won't go viral, so don't even post it.
Don't even try.
Um yeah, so wow, it's really wild. So these are the exact things people need to hear is how you got here, and you understand when you're working with patients. You understand
Right.
when they say nothing else has worked. I tried all the things and da da da. And then, it's interesting because doesn't it always comes down to emotions and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
or whatever the term, it doesn't have to be the word emotions, but
Stress.
it's deeper than, yes, stress, threat, trauma, whatever you want to call it. But, I'll never forget, this will relate to your story because one of my moments was I had been already way into the Z Health stuff, not by a long time, but like a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I had this woman who had low back pain. And by that time, I was getting good and getting quick results and all the things. And it was our 8th session, and basically no change had happened.
And you're
And
like,
I was like,
probably. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, not really normal for me, So this is when I did in person. We were in San Francisco. I sit her down on a bench because we like to move our bodies outside. And I sat her down and I just straight up
Yeah.
said, hey, it's been 8 sessions.
Yeah.
You still have low back pain. Is there something you're not telling me?
Mic drop. She's
Right.
probably.
Started bawling immediately, right? And in my mind, when I'm asking the question, I actually just mean like history. Like, is there something you're not telling me about? Like,
You weren't getting at that.
I wasn't from my end.
That's
Yeah, because I wasn't,
yeah.
seasoned yet. I was like, is there something you're not
Yeah, like,
telling me?
weird
Like,
theory that you haven't told me about. Oh, that's incredible.
did you, break your elbow that what I was like, is there something you're not telling me? I definitely said it in a way that I knew would get something out,
Yeah.
but I actually wasn't coming from
Right.
like,
Yeah.
what are you not telling,
Yeah. Yeah.
But then in the interaction, I realized how I then came across. But she starts crying, and literally I just start holding her, and she's just sobbing into my chest. And I can hold space. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. I just was with her. I let her
Yeah.
cry. She kind of comes out of it, and she's like, my husband is a drunk.
Ay.
He is an alcoholic, and it is so stressful. Every day is hard. And she just goes into this whole world with her husband. And I'm like,
Yeah. Holy, yeah. What can
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't eye circle this out of your body.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It's not happening. Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't
Yep.
ankle circle this out. So that was one of those moments for me where I really realized
Mm.
everything matters,
Mm-hmm.
especially what they're actually dealing with in their life that most people don't ask about.
Yeah.
And what do you know? She felt better just by
Even
expressing and crying.
yep.
Just that brought
Yep.
her pain down.
Yep.
It literally went from like an 8 to a
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
It just
Yep.
then I was like, okay, because I've been doing this for 8 sessions and nothing's working. So
Yeah.
that was one of my, okay, it's so, okay, Missy, like, how do you get such good results? This and that, blah, blah. You know what? I just listen.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Which is so rare.
Just be like disciplined and deliberate that they are going to leave this session with you feeling heard.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into it with that, your tools, your approaches, your lens, your filters, your skills will be more effective
Mm-hmm.
if you
I'm sure.
just leave them feeling heard.
I'm sure you see this too. I mean, many people are literally emotional just by being heard because
Just being heard
that's it. Just by listening.
is
Normal.
hard for them.
Yeah. Normal providers, at least in the medical world,
Yeah.
spend 5 minutes with you. They don't hear your story, right? It's like you got low back pain. Here's a script for some PT. Bye. Not like, no, like tell me how you really are.
Yeah, how are you?
What's going on? Are you
And
sleeping?
also, like, your low back pain, it's your fault. It's because you don't do XYZ or
Yeah.
you do too much this and that. Which, okay, to some degree, of course, like, okay, if you have a gluten intolerance and you're eating gluten, it would be helpful if you removed that, right? But it's like we don't have to make them feel bad about the not knowing and the journey of it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? If you're not willing to take it out, okay, well, then here are the consequences of that. And we can do all these things, but we'll have this to do. It's your choice.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead.
Right.
So, um, so anyways, so you're now, how old are you when you're going into this NET new lens?
So that was probably like 11 years ago. So like 26.
Something. Yeah. So
Mid 20.
26 years old. Yeah. And has there been, how, has there been moments in your life where you were like going through something and you're thinking to yourself, like, how am I going to get through this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just for example, my dad had passed away when I was 20 years old. Not that many people know this story, but I was in Orange County in California. And at this time, I'm not kidding you when I say this, I used to drink like a fifth of Captain Morgan, like a bottle.
What?
And yeah. Like I used to literally,
You're a dancer too?
what?
Was this when you were dancing too?
I was doing my dance training. I wasn't a professional technically yet. I was doing a lot of auditions and I was getting my dance degree and all that. So, but yes, it was during my dance
Yeah.
life and no one knew because I was super depressed from my dad dying, right? Like I literally found him dead on Christmas morning. Like that will F you up. Yeah. See, this people don't know this. You're like my close friend and don't even know this story. So that's like
Yeah.
why we have to podcast.
Yeah.
So I basically just go into the like, why am I even here? Like if you're just going to die and leave your kids, like what? I just was like, I would just drink so much Captain Morgan. I don't know why it was Captain Morgan, but it was. And then I would go to Little Caesars and get $5 pizzas. And I would just sit in the Little Caesars parking lot and eat like as many pieces as I possibly could.
Right.
And somehow I would wake up the next day and like dance train for 8 hours, and no one would like, I would just be normal because I don't think you
Yeah.
get hungover when you're young. I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I'm like, how did I even do that? But I remember I was in a corner I was sharing a bedroom with my roommate, right? We had bunk beds.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a corner and like holding the Captain Morgan. I don't know what space I was in, what time, nothing. But I remember looking up and thinking, if my dad, well, he is, if he's watching me, like if he was right there watching me, he would be really sad seeing me hold this bottle in a corner curled up in a fetal position. And it what not if he's watching me, like he's there, like my dad is seeing this, right? And then I just remember thinking, okay, that would make him sad, so what would make him happy? And then I was like, whoa, if I was happy, he would be happy.
Yeah.
So what makes me happy? So I could be happy so that he's happy, seeing how, like, it was a whole like conversation, right? And I was like, well, if I got paid to dance, that would make me really happy.
Right.
So Google was like brand new at this time. I'm not even kidding you. I'm not kidding. I Google, it was like,
It's almost 20 years ago.
yeah, it was some really long. It was 20. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I remember Google being new. Okay, or what? I don't even know if it was Google, but I got on a computer and searched for
Maybe
something,
the
which,
internet was new. Yeah.
yeah, like people, you don't know. We know what it was like before the internet, okay? So, but I remember being like, I'm gonna look something up. So I look up just like professional dance teams and I try to like figure out how I'm gonna get paid to dance. And I see Golden State Warrior auditions, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Well, I was dating a guy who was from San Jose. I was like, maybe he'll want to move to San Francisco.
Right.
And then I'll just try.
Yeah.
And it just, that's what happened. Like I had this thought, I was holding this bottle, and looked up at nothing, thinking maybe it was my dad looking at me. We moved to San Francisco. I audition. I keep making cut after cut after cut. Mind you, I don't even know I'm talented at this point. Like I just love to dance, and it was my, like,
What's your
what I
favorite?
was studying.
Yeah.
I love to do it, but I didn't ever know it was a talent. If that, like, I was just doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm from a small town. I'm like, okay, you're the best dancer in Lompoc. Like, no, that doesn't even count. So my best friend was really good, but it was just like that, so I haven't been like out in the world doing it. So
Right.
anyways, I make cut after cut after cut. And then I make the team and I'm like, I made it?
Yeah. Like
What? What? Like I 100 million thousand % did not expect to make the team.
Yeah.
Like I was not trying to make it, if that makes, like, I don't know what, I was just there trying to, anyways, of course you're trying to make it, but you know what, it was just weird.
Yeah.
So that's an
That's a God
example of how, so logistically, like if someone said like, how did you get through that with your dad? I would be like, okay, I made a decision
Mm.
and I acted on the decisions. I wasn't like, oh, it'd be really nice to audition. I actually did the steps to get there. I moved.
Yeah.
I went to the audition. I got the shirt. I ironed on a W for Warriors. Like I put beads on a bra that I got at like Walmart. Everyone had on like fancy costumes, and I just, so like these are the logistical steps that I went through to have an outcome. So what kind of moments do you have like that, or one moment that you can think of as I share that story?
Yeah. Whew. I knew this was Justin. You're hitting me in a hot ear.
I I do know this.
I know, you know. But this is good timing because I have recently been feeling called to share about this, which is why when you reached out, I was like, yeah, I'm in. Um, and I know this is a great platform for that. There's other little things I could talk about, but like, it's like that Brene Brown quote, like, this year's brought me to my knees in a way I didn't ever think my life would go. Um, in the past year, I have had 3 miscarriages and lost my sister suddenly. And talk about all the tools you want, but man, most of it's just like getting through it. I mean, that's like my biggest advice is just keep going. Um, of course, things like NET have helped me, and I've worked with a lot of amazing healers and have so many people in my circle. But at the end of the day, like, the lesson for me has just been like trust and surrender. Like, that's it. And just, I think you either go super far away from faith or lean into it. And that's, I don't even think I can say which of those is right for the person. But for me, it's made me like force me to embrace faith in a whole new way of just like, I have to believe that for whatever reason, this is what I'm meant to experience. Or otherwise, like you, where you were at, like, what is the point? Like, what are we even doing? But it's just, I never thought I would be like thrown into basically being in like a PhD program for grief. And that's what it's felt like. And I just have such different compassion for people that have experienced a loss like yours too, right? Like, so suddenly and unexplainable, and it brings you to places you never thought you would go. And everyone has a fancy, I'm not going to tell you to freaking take an herb for that. Like, let's get real, right? Like you said, there's no rehab out of those places. It's just, I think, leaning on family, community, whatever your belief system is, right? Leaning into that time, you know, but also like riding the waves when they come. I'll have weeks where I feel like
Mm.
great and so grateful and like have a beautiful, I have a completely new respect and like appreciation for life in general, right? And like, I look at my daughter and I'm like, she's such a miracle. And
She really is.
I would never have that perspective. I just wouldn't. I would not, I truly would not feel the same if I hadn't been through all of this. So, man, but it hasn't been easy. That's for sure.
So, like when you say, so you said leaning into relationships, time, surrendering, and riding the waves. Like you probably didn't even know what you said, but that's what you said. Is if you were to like list out how you cope,
Yeah.
what are some thoughts that you have to actually do that? Like how do you know what I mean? You're like laying there in a low space and then do you just say to yourself, just lay here? Or do you say, put your foot down on that floor? Like how do you actually do these 4 things? Do you text like how do you reach out to community? How do you surrender?
Yeah. I mean, I think it looks different every day. That's why this topic is so hard. There's not like a secret recipe. But I think like what you said is beautiful. Like, if you're feeling like you just need a day to like be sad and cry, like great, then that's what you need. You know, I think I see this a lot in like the spiritual and even wellness community that can kind of like bypass the negative, right? Of like, oh, just get back up and like focus on gratitude all day long. It's like some days you're like F gratitude, you know, and like that's okay too. Like we are human, we are meant to feel the good and the bad and like the full spectrum of emotions, like
Meant
all the time.
to.
Correct, and it's not wrong, right? Um, but it's a delicate balance, you know. Though, like you also don't, of course, like you said, like your answer was just like put on your big girl pants and start moving forward, right? And like sometimes you need that too. But I think it's like, you know, hopefully, I mean, I'm so blessed to have so many wonderful people in my life and my family that like check on me all the time. So I don't necessarily have to, you know, SOS call very often. Um, but yeah, I mean, what's helped me? Like, it's more than anything going back to really, really fundamental things. Like getting us outside in nature. For me, is like super healing. There's actually like data to back that up if you really want that. But getting outside, fresh air. I've taken a million Epsom salt baths. Like just I think whatever kind of helps regulate your nervous system and calm you. So you're and look, this is easier said than done. I like have a very, very demanding job and family life. So, you know, I'm not saying I've done this perfectly. There's been weeks where I haven't had a second to grieve or feel things, right? And like that's real life. But it's like trying your best to have that balance where you really can kind of check in or work with someone to help you process, right? A therapist or a healer or a Reiki healer or whatever it might be. But there's a lot of power in that as well. And I've done a lot of that. So I do think like being proactive is super important too, even if you're feeling good. Like every few weeks, have a session with someone, you know, that does whatever kind of technique or healing modality resonates with you, but to just help support you from like an external way. Because I have a feeling a lot of people listening here are probably like professionals. You know, we can't like doctor ourselves. That does not work.
It's not even possible. So
No.
just don't even try.
Yeah.
Just don't
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
Yeah. I laugh because I have a story where like I had SI discomfort. I won't even call it pain. I just had like an annoying SI a couple months ago, and I had to have Ryan pretend his SI hurt and ask me what to do about it
Stop it.
and then repeat it back to me so I could hear what I said.
You should have
Because
done.
like I
That's great.
yeah, like I couldn't
It's true though.
like it's my SI. So what I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like
Your brain does not work for
it
you.
doesn't work. I just was like my right SI hurts. What am I supposed to do?
And you're like, I am the person to ask this. And I,
Oh, literally. Yeah. So yeah, that's our joke. So he pretends like anyways. Um so, thank you for sharing that and even trying to articulate it because it's hard to articulate, and that's kind of the light I want to shine is I hear people's trapped in their head thoughts like I must be crazy, why can't I get through this, or why am I thinking these thoughts, and it's like first of all, like everyone has those thoughts.
Mhm.
And we're all questioning, what is the point of this? Why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to them? What am I supposed to do now? I don't like it's a whole mind F. And it is healing to hear that others feel that way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it suck less.
Yeah.
I've had 2 miscarriages. And even though I have, that doesn't mean I know what to say to a really close friend of mine who loses her baby either. Like, I hear from you and then you're like, I've been through it. I still don't have this like eloquent, perfect sentence you're supposed to say to every friend, or here's this care package. Like, you
You
just be
can't, and
human.
some stuff just sucks, and that
It
is what
just
it is.
sucks. Yeah. And it's unexplainable and it's a mystery, you know? I just had this birth story listening session on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, why did I have C-sections? Why couldn't a baby come out of my vagina? Like, da da. And I mean, right, all the things. And she was like, yeah, no one knows.
Right. Right.
Anyone that says, here's why,
Yeah.
right, okay, my pelvis is too small, the baby was sunny side up, your water was broken from what, those aren't true reasons
Correct.
why anything. Why did I have a vaginal birth and not a C-section? No one, like, it, there's no answer.
Yeah.
And that for me is the hardest to accept.
Right.
Like, these things are a mystery. Why did I miscarry? I'm so healthy.
Yeah.
Non-GMO, organic, fair trade, this, blah.
Yeah.
No,
100%. Yeah.
right? Like, no, it does.
Yeah.
It doesn't discriminate.
Right.
And why does, this is when I had my miscarriages. That's the thing. I was like, why do moms who are on like meth have 8
Oh,
kids
I
with
know.
sneezing?
Yeah.
I-
Yeah. I know.
And I, Missy Bunch,
Yes.
can't, like, you
Yeah.
know, it, and you know, those, you can have the thoughts
Yes.
and then you'd realize you're like, okay, this doesn't serve me.
Like
It
not
is not,
helpful.
it's not helpful. This isn't healthy. Oh, but the thoughts are there, my friend.
Yeah.
You know, so um happy to do a part 2 because I feel like there's more in there, but
Yeah.
you actually did give clear advice. Oh, you're like, reach out to community, time, surrender, ride the wave, and then be proactive. Like, those are things that could really help someone after listening to this podcast. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you so much and love you.
Love you.
Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yes. Primarily Instagram, Dr. Abby Kramer. Do you know why I did that?
No. Who's
Because if you don't have the dot, this is like a funny side note. It's Drabby Kramer. I can't do it.
That's hilarious. And you are not drabby.
I'm like, I can't
I
do it.
can't. I
But my
can't.
website is drabbykramer.com. This is what it is.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Drabby Kramer. I had to throw a 15 on mine because apparently Missy
Why are you
Bunch
15?
is,
Okay.
it literally is just my favorite number. Like, I was
Okay.
born on the 15th, my sister, there's all these reasons, but why would I put it on my Instagram handle? It's because like Missy underscore Bunch wasn't available. Missy Bunch wasn't available. Who
Surprise.
who's named Missy Bunch?
Especially
Like,
so many years ago. Like, it's not like you just created this account.
yeah. I think there might be like Coach Missy Bunch, but then I didn't want that on I was like, what if I don't want to go by that? I don't,
It's that coach because like people search you for your handle.
yeah.
For a while, you were thinking about changing it.
Yeah. I think it was Coach Missy Bunch I was gonna do. Or my coach Missy.
Ah,
That's what I was gonna do. Anyways, then I was just like, screw it. No one cares.
do the OG. I like it.
I'm just keeping it. It's a 15. I don't know.
You like 15, then it's good.
I love 15. Oh, I love 15s. I
Yeah.
love 5s. I love 15. But yeah, so okay. So thank you for being here and I will see you very soon. You guys can find her on Insta at Dr. Abby Kramer. And from there, find more of her resources. And now you know more about the person behind what she's doing in this world, all the good things. So that's always good to know who we really are inside. To end, I'd love to ask you, I don't know how to ask this, but I think I want to ask it like this is, if you could tell your younger self anything, What would you tell your younger self?
You did not prepare me for this question.
I didn't.
Oh, we were on the fly anyway today. That's the vibe. If I could tell my younger self anything, oof, I think it would be to embrace like authenticity sooner. Like just show up
Mm.
as your true self. You know, because I think people like you, the people on this podcast are going to recognize this too. Like, you don't have to just fit in the traditional box of a strength coach or a, physical therapist or a chiropractor. And that was like kind of hard for me. Like, I kind of had this reckoning when especially when I went online of like, am I really going to show up in this way with like a lot of alternative viewpoints and kind of set myself up for criticism? Like, it would be a lot safer to not do that. Um, but then it ended up being like, this was like your break free mentorship. It ended up being like the best thing I ever did, was just to be like, boom, this is how it is, you know? And you're different. I'm talking about emotions. You're talking about eye circles. It's kind of weird,
It's very weird.
but
Who
this
wants normal? Like, that's my thing right now. Like, who wants
is boring
normal? No one.
anyway. But
Yeah.
people need like who you authentically are, you know? So if you like love some fringy, like weird hobby, like great, this goes beyond career stuff, but I think that's really hard, especially in like your 20s. As you're younger, I think part of it just comes with age. You're more like, F it, this is who I am and I don't care anymore. But that would have been, I feel like, a relief just to my younger self.
Yeah.
Like, just go with it. This is your passion. This is what you love. Like, you don't have to explain it or justify it or do all these backflips, Just be you.
No, you do not. I love that. So embrace your authenticity. You heard it from her, folks. Do it now. Do it yesterday.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right, Dr. Abby, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you soon. Okay, bye.